How dare you cut the cake without my son's permission? Jessica screamed across the backyard, her voice cutting through the cheerful birthday music like a knife. I froze mid-slice, the plastic knife still pressed against the blue dinosaur cake I'd spent 3 hours decorating for my son Tyler's 5th birthday. The fondant scales had taken forever to get right, each one carefully shaped and placed. The chocolate ganache filling was Tyler's favorite. I'd even found edible glitter that matched the Jurassic theme perfectly. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward me, parents and children alike, falling silent as Jessica stormed across the lawn, her heels sinking into the grass with each furious step. She'd arrived late to the party, made a grand entrance with an enormous wrapped present that dwarfed all the other gifts, and immediately started criticizing everything from the decorations to the party favors to the bounce house I'd rented. "You're selfish just like your dead mother," she spat loud enough for every single guest to hear. The words hung in the air like poison. I felt my hand tremble slightly on the knife, but I kept my expression neutral. I'd learned years ago that showing emotion to Jessica only made things worse. "Jessica, it's Tyler's birthday," I said quietly, gesturing to my son who stood frozen by the bounce house, his little face confused and hurt. "He asked me to cut the cake so his friends could have some. My Braden is older. He should have cut it first." Jessica jabbed her finger toward her 7-year-old son, who looked just as uncomfortable as Tyler. "You always do this, always making everything about yourself, never considering real family." Real family. The phrase she'd been using since Mom died 3 years ago, as if my existence somehow became negotiable once our mother wasn't around to defend me. I set down the knife and pulled out my phone, typing a quick message while Jessica continued her tirade about respect and family hierarchy and how Mom would be ashamed of my selfishness. The irony of that statement almost made me laugh. "I'm texting the trustee about your monthly allowance," I said softly, not looking up from my phone. "Asking if we should continue it." Jessica's face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. "What?" Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I looked up, meeting her eyes with the same calm expression I'd maintained throughout her entire performance. "Your allowance. From the family trust. I'm asking the trustee if we should keep sending it." "You can't," she started, but her voice cracked. "Actually, I can." I slipped my phone back into my pocket. "Now, should we sing happy birthday to Tyler, or would you like to continue making a scene at a 5-year-old's party?" Jessica's husband, Mark, appeared at her elbow, his face tight with embarrassment. "Jess, maybe we should." "Shut up, Mark," she hissed, but her eyes never left mine. "You're bluffing. You don't control anything." I smiled. "Okay." The party continued awkwardly. Parents whispered to each other while trying to act normal for the children's sake, but I caught fragments of their conversations. Did she really say that about her own mother? At a child's birthday party? Poor thing, losing her mom and having a sister like that. Tyler opened his presents with forced enthusiasm, his earlier joy dampened by the tension. He kept glancing nervously between me and his aunt, his small hands fumbling with wrapping paper that earlier he would have torn into with glee. Each gift came with sympathetic smiles from the parents, extra encouragement, as if they could somehow compensate for what Jessica had done. I served cake. The dinosaur's head went to Tyler as planned, and made small talk with the other parents, answering questions about whether I'd made the cake myself, sharing the recipe for the frosting, laughing at the appropriate moments. All while Jessica stood rigid by the fence, her face cycling between rage and panic, her phone clutched in a white-knuckled grip. The bounce house suddenly seemed too loud. Children shrieked with laughter that felt jarring against the adult tension. Someone's daughter got frosting in her hair. 2 boys argued over a toy from the party favors. Normal party chaos that felt surreal after what had just happened. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. I glanced at the screen and saw the trustee's response, then looked up to find Jessica staring at me from across the yard. "Excuse me," I said to the parent I'd been chatting with and walked toward my sister. She met me halfway, grabbing my arm hard enough to hurt. "We need to talk. Now." I led her into the house, away from the guests. The moment the sliding door closed behind us, Jessica turned on me. "What the hell was that about?" Her voice shook with equal parts anger and fear. "You can't just threaten me in front of everyone. Those people are our neighbors, they're parents from Tyler's school, they're witnesses," I said calmly. They're witnesses to what you said about me and our mother at a child's birthday party. Jessica's face flushed. I lost my temper. You know how I get when I'm stressed. Stressed about what? A 5-year-old cutting his own birthday cake. I crossed my arms. Or were you stressed because you've been living beyond your means again and the credit card bills are piling up? Her eyes widened. How do you know about? I know everything about your finances, Jessica. Everything. I didn't threaten you, I said calmly. I asked a legitimate question about financial distributions from our family trust. You have nothing to do with Mom's trust. Actually, Jessica, I have everything to do with it. I pulled up the trustee's email on my phone and handed it to her. Read it. I watched her face as she read, watched the exact moment comprehension hit. Her skin went from pale to gray. This is fake, she whispered, but her hands trembled as she held my phone. Mom wouldn't have. Mom did. I took my phone back. She made me trustee of the entire estate 2 months before she died. $47 million, Jessica. Every penny she inherited from Grandma plus her investments, the rental properties, the stock portfolio, the beach house you think sits empty, everything. And you've been receiving $15,000 monthly from that trust for 3 years now, deposited on the first of every month like clockwork. Jessica sat down heavily on the couch, her designer handbag sliding off her shoulder onto the floor. That's not possible. The lawyer said the estate was being managed professionally. He showed us documents, distribution schedules. The lawyer said what Mom told him to say, that distributions would be handled by the trustee according to her wishes. You assumed it was the law firm managing everything on autopilot. It wasn't. It was me. Every single distribution required my approval. Every month for 3 years I've authorized your payment. But you work at that coffee shop. The words burst out of her like an accusation. You drive a 10-year-old Honda. You live in a rental. You're a barista. Mom always worried about you making ends meet. I own the coffee shop, I corrected. 3 of them actually, Bloom Coffee on Main Street, the one on Campus Drive, and the new location downtown that just opened last month. Mom's trust funded the initial investment 4 years ago, back when she was still healthy enough to help me draft the business plan. The income covers Tyler's expenses nicely, plus some extras. I work there because I enjoy it, not because I need to. The Honda runs fine. The rental is in a good school district. And Mom never worried about my finances because she knew exactly what she'd set up for me. Jessica's mouth opened and closed several times, her carefully applied lipstick smudged at the corner. But you always said money was tight. You bought Tyler's clothes at thrift stores. You said you couldn't afford. I said I preferred not to waste money on overpriced children's clothes they'd outgrow in 3 months. There's a difference between frugal and poor, Jessica. Mom taught me that. Jessica's mouth opened and closed several times. Why didn't you tell me? Why would I? So you could demand more money? Criticize how I manage it? Use it as another way to prove I'm not real family? I shook my head. Mom knew exactly what she was doing when she structured the trust this way. She knew you'd waste it if you had full access. The monthly allowance keeps you comfortable, but controlled. I'm your sister. And you just called me selfish like our dead mother at my son's birthday party, I said, my voice level but edged with steel. In front of his friends. In front of other parents. You made my 5-year-old cry because I cut a cake he specifically asked me to cut. Jessica looked away. I didn't mean. You did mean it. You always mean it. I checked my phone again. The trustee is waiting for my instructions. I can continue your allowance at the current rate, increase it, decrease it, or terminate it entirely. Mom left that decision completely up to my discretion. You can't cut me off. I absolutely can. The trust documents are very clear. As trustee, I have full authority over all distributions. You want to know what else is in there? Mom's letter. 3 pages explaining exactly why she chose this arrangement. I pulled up a photo of the letter on my phone. Want to read what she said about your real family comments? Jessica's face crumpled. She knew. Of course she knew. You weren't exactly subtle. I zoomed in on one paragraph. Here. Jessica has always valued appearance over substance, money over character. She will undoubtedly treat her sister poorly once I'm gone, convinced that bloodline matters more than love. Let her learn the hard way that the sister she dismissed controls her financial future. The silence stretched between us. Outside, I could hear children laughing, the bounce house squeaking, Tyler's voice raised in delight over something. Normal birthday sounds. Happy sounds. What do you want? Jessica finally asked, her voice small. I want you to leave Tyler's party. No. Quietly. Make an excuse about Braden not feeling well. That's it. For now. I put my phone away. But Jessica, hear me clearly. If you ever speak to me or about Mom that way again, especially in front of my son, the allowance stops immediately. Not reduced. Terminated. And before you think I'm bluffing, remember that I've been managing this trust for 3 years without you knowing. I don't make threats I can't back up. Jessica stood slowly, looking 10 years older than when we'd walked into the house. The allowance is all we have. Mark's business is struggling and the mortgage. I know exactly what your financial situation is. The trustee provides me quarterly reports on all beneficiaries. I walked toward the sliding door. That's why you've been receiving $15,000 monthly instead of the $10,000 Mom's letter suggested. I increased it when Mark's company started having problems. Because despite everything, you're still my sister, and Tyler deserves to have his cousin in his life. Her eyes widened. You increased it? Last year. You didn't notice because it deposited automatically. I opened the door, letting in the sounds of the party. But generosity isn't the same as tolerance, Jessica. I can be kind to you without accepting cruelty from you. Learn the difference. Jessica walked past me without another word, her shoulders slumped. I watched her collect Mark and Braden, saw her whisper something to her husband that made his expression shift from confusion to shock. They left through the side gate, Braden waving goodbye to Tyler with genuine disappointment. Tyler ran up to me as I stepped back into the yard. Why did Aunt Jessica leave? Did I do something wrong? I knelt to his level, brushing frosting from his cheek. No, baby. You did nothing wrong. Braden wasn't feeling well, so they had to go home early. Oh. He seemed to accept this. Can we do the piñata now? Absolutely. The rest of the party went smoothly. Parents who'd witnessed Jessica's outburst made a point of complimenting the cake, the decorations, and what a wonderful job I was doing raising Tyler on my own. I smiled and thanked them, not mentioning that I wasn't quite as on my own as they assumed. Mom's trust ensured Tyler would never want for anything, would have the best education, the best opportunities. After the guests left and Tyler crashed hard on the couch, surrounded by new toys and exhausted from excitement, I pulled out my phone and sent the final message to the trustee. Continue Jessica's allowance at current amount. Flag account for review if she makes any unusual requests. Will provide updated instructions if circumstances change. The response came immediately. Understood. Trust continues as directed. Your mother would be proud of your discretion. I looked at the framed photo on the mantel. Mom holding newborn Tyler in the hospital, her smile radiant despite the cancer she'd hidden from everyone for another year. She'd known exactly how things would unfold. Known that Jessica would show her true colors once the buffer of Mom's presence was gone. Known that I'd need protection and power to stand against a family that had never quite accepted me. $47 million wasn't just inheritance. It was armor. It was ammunition. It was Mom's final gift, carefully planned and precisely delivered. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I didn't know. I typed back. You're sorry you didn't know. Not sorry for what you said. There's a difference. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, you're right. I'm sorry for what I said. About you. About Mom. It was cruel and wrong. Better. Not perfect but better. Acknowledged. See you at Thanksgiving. And Jessica? Braden is always welcome here. This is between you and me, not the kids. Thank you. I set down my phone and looked at my sleeping son, chocolate smudged on his chin, one hand still clutching his new toy dinosaur. 5 years old today. Growing up so fast. And completely protected from the financial games and family politics that had defined my childhood. Mom had made sure of that. She'd made sure of everything. Outside, the sun was setting, casting golden light across the remnants of the party, deflated balloons, empty paper plates, the demolished cake stand. Evidence of a celebration that had almost been ruined but was ultimately saved by a secret kept for 3 years. I'd cut the cake because my son asked me to. Such a simple thing. Such a normal thing. And it had revealed everything. Sometimes the smallest acts of defiance carry the largest consequences. Tyler stirred on the couch, mumbling something about dinosaurs in his sleep. I pulled a blanket over him and kissed his forehead, then began cleaning up the yard. The trust would continue. Jessica would learn. And Tyler would grow up knowing that family, real family, meant more than blood and hierarchy and permission to cut birthday cakes. It meant love. Protection. The kind of strength that looked like gentleness until someone tested it. Mom had taught me that. And now finally I taught Jessica. The lesson was expensive, but some things are worth the cost.